Hey, Brick World family, welcome back to the Brick World live stream. Thank you for being here this week for another episode of Think Outside the Blocks, where Ben and I teach you how to think outside the shape of the Lego blocks and also think outside of your mental blocks. We're doing something a little bit differently tonight, though we're going to go with Lego Crimes because Ben and I haven't built too much new stuff yet since Brick World Chicago was just a couple weeks ago, and we're going to get back to that soon. But this week we decided we were going to combine our interest in true crime and Lego into a Lego Crimes episode where Ben and I and our special guest, who we'll get to in a second, will each present a case of a crime involving Lego. And TV mature audience warning tonight, my case in particular gets a little dark, so we're testing out this idea, so please let us know if you like it. And we'll see if we do it again in the future, depending on how many people complain about how dark my case gets. But let's move on. I, of course, am Mark Larson, Chief Brick Officer of Brick World. You can follow me in multiple places at Brick World, or just search Brick World on whatever social media platform you might want to see me on. Let's go ahead and bring in Mr. Ben Hauger. Ben, how are you doing tonight?
I am Super Mark. I am coming to you live from the shores of Lake Superior in Duluth, Minnesota.
Woo, that's fancy.
Yes, very
fancy. Are you in a restaurant that's currently closed?
Yes, actually. So the hotel was very kind to give me an accommodation, knowing that my children are too excited to stay quiet for an hour and a half. So this section here is sort of a doored-off section off the main dining room that I get to hang out in today for the live stream.
Wow, so it's like the privilege of being an influencer.
Dedication, yes. Dedication to you and the privilege of being an influencer in strong air quotes.
The hotel staff definitely knew who you were.
100%, yes.
Yeah, speaking of influencers, we have a real influencer with us tonight. Let's introduce Girl Bricks-a-Lot. Yeah. My new BFF, Nicole, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here. Like, excited, I'm nervous, all the things.
Yeah.
I don't know how dark we're getting tonight, but I came ready mentally.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let's get all four of us on screen. I would say, Nicole, I'm definitely glad to have my new BFF here. And I also don't know how dark we're getting tonight, and I'm a little nervous myself. I kind of always am on the live stream just because this is relatively new for me. And there's, I'm still humble at this point, so I get nervous that people are going to like it or show up. It looks like we got a couple people saying hello in the chat. We have Snowlena saying hello there. Well, hello, Snowlena. Hopefully some other people are joining us. I actually advertised early this week because I was excited about getting the Lego Crimes idea out there. So
I'm telling you, that 3 a.m. conversation that you're like, what would be awesome? Crime and Lego. And I was like, where, what time, when? We need to do this.
Yeah, and we ended up pushing off our plan for a week so that you can join us. So glad that we were able to accommodate and have you here. Since you're our guest, I was gonna say I'll let you decide who should go first, you or Ben, and we may want to discuss like the level of darkness and see if we can get 3 steps of darkness, so the kids can go to bed by the time mine starts.
I know yours is dark, Mark, so you're gonna go last. Ben, how dark is yours?
Oh, I don't think it's too dark, but I picked this one in particular. Not only was it pretty early in the search results, but because it had a tie to YouTube, and I thought you might have some interesting insights into the story.
Ooh.
I think you should go first.
Nice. All right.
It feels like ghost story hour. I feel like we should have flashlights.
100%. And Ben, I've got your slides over here, so just let me know when you want me to flip to them. Let me get the slideshow going so it's ready and I'm not just stuck in the preview mode because I don't know how to use Google Slides. See, this is how I didn't want to look at any of the cases. I wanted it to be a surprise for everybody, so I don't look on this. Oh, there we go. Slideshow. All right, cool. I'll be ready for you whenever. Let's go ahead and take Nicole and Nicole and me and the Fabuland arrest over there out and let Ben move forward with his case. All right, what you got, man?
All right, you got the pull up the slides for me here. I mean, I think you and Nicole and I touched on this very briefly when it started. A lot of the Lego crimes that you come across are tied heavily in theft. This case may
Yeah.
not be entirely about theft, and we'll get to that in a second. But you may be familiar with this little warning that comes inside a Lego box. They come in very plain packages, and they claim, at least on the box here, that they're plain because it keeps the gift giving a secret. I have a suspicion that there's an additional bonus that perhaps it keeps the porch pirates away.
Yeah.
So you see this little icon. Really, we don't want to advertise that you're getting something crazy and special from Lego right on your doorstep. But on the next slide here, it's kind of evolved beyond that. This is my local Walmart, and you can see here that all of the Lego is now kept behind a glass case. You have to push a button to have someone come and open it for you. This includes the $5 poly bags. Every single set now behind glass at the Walmart.
That's how I have to buy shaving cream, or I'm sorry, razor.
Razor blades.
Yeah, you got to hit the button, and associate has to come unlock it for you.
Right. So this happens to be in more than one Walmart location locally in the Twin Cities. You now have to get an associate over just to buy a poly bag. So
wow,
pretty crazy.
Oh,
but being that it's a sought after product, and especially we're seeing a lot more of that post pandemic. But even before pandemic, we have what my crime ended up being here, which is hopefully on the next slide here.
Well, I have a question before we move on. Slide. Yeah. If you ring the buzzer for an associate to come over and open that cage for you, will they stand there and wait for you to feel up all the CMFs?
to feel up the CMFs. Yeah, I mean I almost feel like I should be known in my local Walmart and Target for doing that, right? They're like, here comes the bag feeler guy again, right?
Right. It's just, let's just give this guy the key because we don't have time.
He's not stealing it. He's just...
He just needs the molest package.
Right. So on the next slide here, most of my case came from this site that I put down here from the Business Insider by David Kushner. But you can see a list of other Lego crimes that were listed, and maybe some of these you guys will get into, so I don't want to read through them, but you can see a wide variety of very interesting Lego crimes, mostly around theft, that have been identified or thought of occurring in recent years, basically to steal Lego because of the gains that can come from doing it. You can see here, and I don't even think we got into, and maybe we didn't get into, the world of counterfeiting. That could be its own live stream someday if people like this.
Definitely.
But it's really a gigantic industry, gigantic underworld crime industry. In fact, I've heard that investing in Lego sets and reselling them later is more lucrative than gold.
Yes, I have heard the same thing.
It's better than gold. Yep.
You Google it, it says Lego appreciates faster than gold, and it crops up in my newsfeed all the time because some news outlet, and it's not the same article, some news outlet will pick up on the idea and be like, hey, we have to fill some space. What blows me away about this list you have here is that the one in California, in England, that blasted through the warehouse wall of fairy bricks donates the sets to children's hospitals. And I'm wondering more about it because I want to know what they blasted through the wall with. I don't know. That's the point of interest for me. That's what's piquing my interest in this. Is what did they use to blast through this wall?
Yeah. The Fairbricks one might be really interesting because there was a couple of incidents, and I don't know if they related to the same one, of this warehouse being blasted into. They also had a van that was robbed or something like that as well. So it's something to consider. I also saw you flash up the the lovely question there about what sort of degenerate area I live in. It's not 8 Mile in Detroit or anything. I live in a, um, in a very nice area of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. It's not any sort of degenerate area at all. So the fact that this is happening at multiple Walmarts in my location just, I think, speaks volumes about the type of loss they're feeling from Lego crime.
I mean, you see this more and more in stores too for different products. And like, for example, again, Walgreens, after the basement flooded, because I was down here for hours walking around trying to get stuff out, I needed some athlete's foot spray. And there was me and one other guy both hitting the button, like waiting for him. And we both wanted the same product. And I looked at him, I said, "Did your basement flood too?" And he was like, "Yes."
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah. So, outside of the broad realm of Lego crimes, let's get into my specific one, which, like I said, involves a YouTube rivalry. And this is focused on a YouTuber named Republic Attack. And I thought maybe people would just know this guy instantly because he has 1 million subscribers, only 93 videos. That's not a ton considering how long he's been doing this.
Yeah.
But he's a French YouTuber who was involved in, as I call it, an unsolved mystery of heartbreak, robbery, and betrayal, ? And so we can get into that here.
So Nicole, do you have the same question I do reading this guy's profile?
Yes, I do.
All right, you take it.
No, you take it.
All right. Do you know?
It's your show, Mark. It's your show.
Oh, but you're our guest. Yeah.
No.
All right. So then I'll ask you specifically, what do you think of his statement there? I guess it's a question. Do you know the difference between boys and men?
I don't know if I want to go there.
All right. It's a little aggressive.
So they're toys, apparently. I don't know.
Oh, I was so stuck on the question. I was like, what's wrong with this? No, I get it. All right. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute.
The answer is right there, my friend.
Thank you for reading the entire screen to me. I was like, I have a large array here, so like I had to look way to the right to see that, and I was just stuck. It seems so aggressive, and I see this a lot in profiles, but it's actually kind of cute when you see the answer. Also, still a bit too specific.
So many dark ends this could go off.
Right.
So many.
I would like that to say, do you know the difference between children and adults? The price of their toys. I guess that's where I'm left.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I can't control what he puts in his profile. I can only pull the picture for him.
Is he still active? Like, is he still an active YouTuber?
He is, in fact, still active, yes. And this crime that we'll talk about happened to him many years ago. And in fact, it seemed like this was a big deal, even though me being active in the Lego community and semi-active in YouTube or working on that, you would think this was something that just everybody knew, but I didn't. So I thought maybe the rest of us could hear about it as well. And having the experience of being a real YouTuber, Nicole, perhaps you'll have some thoughts on some of what happened here, and we'll really get an idea of how careful we need to be as YouTubers.
Yeah.
Talking about our bricks.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Well,
so.
No, Lena
flip to my next slide here.
Jumped in and said she can't really talk because she lives in the degenerate area of Sydney, and so I guess she's probably going to be seeing those glass doors on her Lego shelves in the stores out there soon.
Oh, and Sydney, of course, isn't it like twice the price, right? So Lego there is even more expensive.
Yeah, they make up for their losses in their major markets by jacking up their prices in overseas.
Yeah. So this story has a large YouTube component. So as I said, YouTube ain't easy. Even though he only has 93 videos, including some recent ones, a lot of his early videos, and I think this is represented on the next slide here, focused on some of his my own creation builds.
Oh, nice.
and kind of showing
Wow.
off some of the things that he built. And even though, some of these aren't, truly epic builds, they're all pretty nice.
Yeah.
They're very focused on Star Wars. It's not what I do, but he wasn't just doing set reviews or other things. He was active on YouTube, doing mock type builds as well. And the picture there on the bottom that's kind of in the back, I believe is the mock he was working on when the crime happened to him. And the crime was somebody broke into his house and stole or smashed all of the Lego up in his little attic studio he used to show and demonstrate all of these Lego builds that he has.
Oh my God.
What?
So you can see here on I believe my next slide here, after the crime occurred, he recorded a video
No.
just titled "Bye." He's French, I believe, where he was talking about leaving YouTube following this robbery, and you can see some of the destruction of his Lego there on the ground in
wow.
his little upstairs studio apartment. Or bedroom, probably more likely. My understanding is at the time he actually lived with his parents, and he was away at work.
No.
His parents were at work as well, and someone broke in and stole all his Lego. He believes it was targeted specifically at the Lego because there were other things in the house, including some MacBooks and some other expensive electronics, which
Right.
weren't touched at all. It was just the Lego that was destroyed and or taken from the place.
Oh my God.
Wow, I
And so
feel
you
bad.
can
When I first
see-
saw the profile, I judged him harshly, and I did not realize he was the victim in the first place.
Well,
Like, I got a little triggered by what I saw as like hyper masculine tendencies, but I'll withdraw all that now. That's crazy, and that's pretty bonkers. I found a couple cases that were based on like Lego vandalism, like this. Not exactly like the breaking into somebody's house, stealing some, smashing the rest is very interesting.
right,
That
and
is
he had a
personal.
lot of,
Yeah, about the
of
same thing.
Lego, a lot of UCS Lego sets and things of that nature. Some new in-box sets as well.
Okay.
All taken. And this video, he basically said, "I'm quitting YouTube." Silver lining here for him, at least, he did not. He bounced back.
Good.
But the big question, of course, following this incident was, well, who did it? Right?
Yeah, right.
And so this is maybe where it gets a little interesting, because even though, and I want to be clear about this, and I think I say this on my next slide, no one has ever been arrested or anything like this. There was one particular
He's still
person.
out there.
You brought us an unsolved case, Ben.
Of course.
Oh, why
of
do you
course.
do that? That's the worst kind of case.
There's one particular person who they have a strong suspicion of.
Yellow X is right. Hella personal.
That may have done this crime.
Oh, who?
A childhood friend who was also a YouTuber, who was also in the Lego realm, and you can see their subscriber counts now. I just pulled these now, but 1,000,003 for Republic Attack versus only about 9.4 thousand for our suspect. I'm not going to refer to him as anything other than Victor. That's how he was identified in the article, though he does, if you Google, of course, have a active YouTube channel as well. He has even more videos out than Republic Attack does, and he is also still active. But this particular guy, they believe, may have been involved because of, as many people have already said, the crime felt personal.
Right.
And Victor seemed upset that not only had Republic Attack surpassed him in YouTube subscribers, but that their friendship had sort of flamed out over the years, and that perhaps there was some jealousy involved here.
Oh.
Jelly donut. Full of it.
And so I think,
full of jelly.
yeah, I mean, this this perhaps is, where maybe Nicole has some insight. I mean, have you had any, YouTube beefs or, anything like that
Do you have a
that
nemesis,
would
Nicole?
lead a person to target you
Oh,
as another YouTuber?
if I do, I don't know about one. Now I'm scared. I'm thinking I'm gonna move.
Oh no.
I'm gonna go into the witness protection program. I don't want this to happen. This is terrifying.
Webcams. Scan for air tags. Webcams.
Webcams, air
Yeah,
tags. I mean,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah, I don't
my
know,
God.
but I mean, this was a lot of the reason they suspected Victor is, he actually knew exactly where Republic Attack lived, as well as what was in his Lego collection.
I was going to do
But
what
there
Snap's
was,
doing right now, and she's looking up who has 9.41 thousand subscribers. I was going to try to do
Oh
that.
my God.
I'm
mean,
assuming
like I
this is
said,
so
I mean, you
Lego
can
specific.
find it.
Yeah. This is so
It's not
specific.
too
It's like
difficult.
I bought a Lego goat and I've left it in the front seat of my car like an idiot. I mean, it was still there, but when I came back, I was like, why am I so stupid? Why did I leave that there? But only like 1% of the population knows that that's worth
Oh.
anything.
So you didn't leave it in the front seat of your car at Brick World Chicago.
No.
So I don't know what YOLO
just-
X was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't. This is so scary. I don't want beef at all. I want to go vegetarian. I do not want beef.
Right.
This is
I don't know what
terrifying.
YOLO X is referring to, but they're saying it's just as sad as Adshot's fire, which I'm not aware of. But maybe it's some YouTube personality had a fire in there.
Yeah, ad shot, I would imagine. Yeah, had a fire. I don't know this person either.
I have this. I have all this stuff here insured, but I don't know if. Yeah, I'm pointing to it. You guys can't see me. I'm not on camera at the moment, but I have the Brick World offices insured, including all the Lego inventory. I don't know if I priced it right.
I'm sweating. I'm so uncomfortable right now. This is just it's just bad.
I also have a rider in my insurance for Lego as well. It's just a personal personal property rider or whatever. But the value is not just in the bricks, right? It's also in the work, especially if you're doing one of a kind mock type stuff.
Yeah.
And as we said, some of those things appreciate faster than gold, right? That's what we've heard. Is that unopened Lego sets can appreciate faster than gold can. So,
the ability
on
to
a
do
personal collection, you're not carrying like 50 of the same set.
And it's like just his ability to do the YouTube stream afterwards, like affecting that if he was monetized or if he was making anything off of his YouTube stream.
Yeah.
That's a lot of loss there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
So on the next slide here, one of the particular interesting things that was also pointed out about this suspect was that he had a popular video in fact, in which he had made a large Star Wars mock, and he smashed it in slow motion with a rubber mallet. So, this was sort of another one of these things where it was kind of like, oh my goodness, not only do we have somebody who's perhaps a rival, but he's actually been filmed destroying Lego with a hammer on camera.
And that's why you don't disrespect your bricks. This is what I'm saying. You respect the brick, it respects you back. You do not take a sledgehammer to your bricks.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
I don't see entertainment in that. Like, what's fun about smashing?
This was the guy that got robbed.
This is Victor.
This is Victor, the suspected perpetrator. So is what he was doing with his bricks performance art, or is this evidence of something that he would have done or could have done to poor Republic Attack?
Yeah,
credit without taking the fall for it. That's what that is.
Someone advised me recently to switch the business address to a PO box.
Oh, always have a PO box.
Yep, I feel a little dumb for not having that on my own first. So definitely on it.
Yeah. In a different town than you live in too. by the way.
Well, I mean, I live in Chicago, so I'll just go in a different neighborhood.
Oh yeah, then that's perfect.
It's like, yeah, come to Chicago and find me. I'm in Chicago. Good luck.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, good luck to you. Oh my god.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Mark,
this is
you may remember this. My day job that I don't perform is I'm trained as an attorney, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a classic Supreme Court case about rigging a spring gun in an abandoned property that shot somebody, and the Supreme Court goes into great detail about whether or not you can protect your property with a spring gun, but ultimately a justice who wrote the opinion was asked after the fact about it and about the controversy of a criminal breaking into your property and just being fed up with it and all this other stuff, and he said, well,
Yeah.
the bottom line is simple: you can't have a spring gun. End of discussion. So
Right.
when you do protect your Lego, no spring guns. I just want to
Okay.
throw that advice out to everybody.
Thank you.
Oh.
Security cameras, PO box addresses, all good. No spring guns. Okay.
I know better than
no
you.
no Lego nunchucks or anything like.
I've seen
Lego
enough horror
nunchucks might
movies.
be okay, I don't know.
I've seen enough horror movies to know that you don't set booby traps for things. Because
No, you
what
don't.
happen with them is the people you don't want to die are going to be the ones that walk into them. That's what I learned from horror movies.
And so I think on my, do I have one last slide here?
You do.
Perhaps the most interesting aspect of all of this is being a suspect. At a particular Lego show, somebody stuck a camera in this particular guy's face, the suspect's face, and said, "Did you steal Republic Attacks brick?" And he responded with one word. He claims, of course, that he was just saying it in jest, but his one-word response was, "Maybe." ...
Oh.
No,
God.
no.
Victor.
Victor, you.
Yes,
You jelly
Victor,
donut.
our alleged
You did it.
perpetrator.
You are a jelly.
Maybe.
You did it, man.
Ah.
Oh, that's bad. That's not good. It's not
We have
good. I'm like
our face.
sweating.
Sorry to drag you guys down, but a
No, you're fine.
a true YouTube and Lego combined crime. Victor versus Republic Attack.
Oh no. Allegedly.
I'm so sweaty. That's so
Alleged, of
nerve-wracking.
course, alleged.
But maybe is the wrong answer.
Jelly donuts can be
That
poisoned.
really is.
That's a poisonous jelly donut.
Yeah.
Type of-
Yeah, it's awful. Nicely done, Ben. That was surprising. Had some good twists and turns in there. Wasn't sure where you were going. I thought the victim was
That
the
was
villain.
a ride.
Yeah. Very
That
much.
was a ride.
Yeah, well, like I said, this one sparked my interest, being, just starting out on YouTube as we are, trying to do something, a little different than some of the other Lego people out there, just sort of getting your legs under you and seeing somebody who's established go through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It
I've
does
definitely heard
feel
of
to me
YouTubers
like
getting
it was
robbed.
personal, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of
Right.
YouTubers getting robbed. Like one of my favorite YouTubers is a watch guy, and he lives in Australia, and he flew to the US for a vacation. When he came back, his entire collection was gone. Like someone just completely stole it. So like that's definitely like one of the downsides to the territory. You know what I mean? Like you get like one jelly donut. It goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Off the rails.
Yeah, no spring guns though, Nicole. You gotta
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
No spring guns, no. Cameras, alarm system, insurance,
But
and
everything-
vigilance.
Glass wall. If somebody wants,
no
They have to
YouTube
buzz it.
beef, right? Vegetarians,
I didn't bother.
gotta keep that up too. Yeah, glass Walmart wall over everything. Yep.
Just have-
Yeah,
Push the
exactly.
button for attendant.
you just have to hire an attendant. I think it's worth it. Security. Tell the security no
Oh,
spring.
man.
They can't take
No
a break.
spring guns
Spring
though.
gun.
No.
Yeah, they got to
Oh
be there
my
in case someone
God.
rings that buzzer.
Well,
Wow.
I guess that's the other thing to mention. The Walmart glass. Crime has become it's increased since COVID. But a lot of these places, you hear stories all the time about people taking handfuls of things and running out the store, and the store employees just simply aren't allowed to stop them.
Yeah.
So, you know, what
Reliability.
else can you do?
Or the one where
Right.
like the guy did tackle the guy and apprehend him until the police got there, and then they fired him for being
Yep,
unsafe.
and he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget where that one was. You have to like Google those details. You could see it. I don't have it right at the tip of my brain where it was or what type of store it was, but he stopped a robber, and they fired him for violating their security guide.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully that was an interesting story at least, and we took up our first half hour. So I think
Yeah, sure
let's,
did.
you know, move to crime 2. Let's
Wow.
go.
I'd say before we move on to Nicole's crime, I'm going to talk about a couple of our sponsors, our real sponsors, Ben. You can talk about our fake sponsors before my case when I inevitably will have to use the bathroom. But we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about Girl Brick Slot. If you don't already
Oh no, I'm not a sponsor.
you should check her out on Instagram. This is her page right here. She's obviously
shucks.
she's supporting us quite a bit by being here as our first real celebrity guest star on the show. We also have Deez Bricks, who has helped out a lot with all the Brick World show brands from Chicago. He's now working pretty hard on Grand Rapids, and he's got ideas for every other show that we do, and he's been great at promoting us. Same goes for Superhawk Bricks. Great couple of youngins. That's terrible.
Whippersnappers.
There we go. Great couple of AFOLs that have been helping us out as well. They were the ones that looked at my schedule and said anything on the schedule that said led by Mark Larson at Brick World Chicago, they took over for me. They also do a lot of the expos, and they're really good at hyping the crowd. And, of course, we have Nicole's home base, a couple of Brickheads, done a lot to support us as well. They've had me on a couple live streams that lasted 3 hours, and I was pretty drunk by the end, like our 3 hour stream. That seems to be the my MO is if I go on a 3 hour live stream, I'm going to be drunk by the end of it, and who knows what might happen. Like last week, I might be like super excited about everything I see, or like a couple of Brickheads on Thursday where I got really emotional and cried about how much I love Brick World and why I do it.
You did cry, yeah.
I did.
That did happen.
I got choked up, I would say. I'm not sure I actually cried.
There was. It was beginning. The tear ducts were definitely flexing a little bit to hold in.
And my husband was standing in the doorway, all like, "Where's dinner?"
He's like, "Mark, what are you doing?" He's like again. He's like, every time you go on ACOM, it's a thing.
We tried to watch Ted Lasso afterwards, and I was like, he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm just like, "I can't see the screen. Like it's bad." Not impressive. We'll talk about that a bit before my my case. I'm pulling back a little bit. I got a little bit too. I was hitting a space where like whenever I do decide to drink, which isn't frequent, but when I do, I was just drinking too much. And part of it was I was really tired from Brick World and it hit me faster than I thought it would. But I was like, it's time to take a break. If I'm gonna be going on live streams, especially, it's time to pull back from this a little bit and just see what we need to clear out. So,
Oh my God.
just to be upfront about it, if anybody was worried about me, I'm taking my own steps to make sure that there is an actual problem. So anyway, with that out of the way, didn't expect me to go that far. I did not expect myself to go that far in saying that, but that is what's going on. And if I am going to be a role model, I want to be upfront about these sorts of things. I don't want people to think that that's cool to go get on YouTube and get smashed every time. Working on that myself. So with that being said,
You behaved.
Thank you.
You
Nicole,
definitely
do
behaved.
you want to get into your crime?
Yeah, so I missed the memo about the slideshow aspect.
No,
that,
Mine aren't slides either, so we can totally be here on screen.
No memo. So you made me do all the extra work, Mark. Is that that's the sitch, huh?
Yeah, you did a great slideshow. Mine's not a
See
slide.
it.
but
I
that's
understand.
the problem. Is you've set the bar so high, and now I am disorganized, and I am having like PTSD from college, where I just rolled up, with a couple pictures.
I have 4 slides. So
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
So, all right. So I think I labeled them 1 through 6 just to keep it. Okay, perfect. So, I mean, none of them are spoilers, but I'll just be like, yeah, 1
Yeah.
I'll tell you. So,
And I figure
um,
I figured because the way they look like they're pictures that touch parts of the story. Like I'll leave it up there for a few seconds and then go back to us all talking to each other.
exactly,
All right, cool.
exactly.
So just let me know when you
So,
want to.
yeah. So, full disclosure, I'm familiar with the story now because I've spent 4 days with it. But I did write notes because I have performance anxiety and I just will forget what I have to say. So I don't want to. I want to do this justice. I don't want to, skip any important events in the story. So, if you want to, well, I'll tell you. So after I tell you where it takes place, then you can put up the first picture.
Awesome.
So this story actually takes place recently in 2022, in the fall of 2022, in Sydney, Australia. So we're going a little bit further. We're going to Snowlena's,
Yep.
town that's about to be locked up behind glass. Okay, picture one. So here we have a 35-year-old Eliza Stewart. She was a pretty top-notch cross-country runner, and she competed in the World University cross-country running competition in 2008 and 2010. She was highly regarded as a professional athlete, and she finished fourth in the 2008 World University Cross Country Championships, which was the best performance by any Australian woman in that type of event. So she was pretty much like close to Olympic level in there. And she was very dedicated. Now, the reason why I picked this story was because like we said, there are a ton of Lego thefts stories, and all of them are pretty straightforward with like theft rings and underground things and whatever. And I just picked like one of the weirder stories that had like a pretty crazy twist and turn in it. And I was also an Olympic athlete, so it kind of so I know the pressures of what a sport can do to you. Yeah, I will talk after the show. I'll tell you all about it.
I thought I knew everything about my new BFF, but apparently, I like how you say it, like you're asking for a glass of water. Like, and I used to be an Olympic athlete.
Yeah. So I understand the pressures of what a competitive sport looks like and how many hours you dedicate to it, and it's your life and all that stuff. So over her lifetime, and I think picture, I don't know what, picture two. You can do picture two, picture three. You can kind of cycle through to picture four, I think. Yeah. So
okay. I'll give them each like 10 seconds.
Yeah, perfect. So over her lifetime, she struggled with anorexia, which is an eating disorder, if you guys don't know. And she struggled with this for about 20 years, so 2 decades of this. And in the past few years, she struggled with the medical complications that come along with this. So it cut her running career short because she was basically killing herself in this process. And eventually about, I think it was 10, maybe 7 years ago, she was forced to amputate both of her legs off. So she was no longer able to run. She was no longer able to train. And she was basically battling this addiction of sorts. And she just couldn't get past it anymore. And she was kind of hitting this point where now the other functions of her body were shutting down. So she wasn't able to really see clearly. She wasn't able to walk now. She wasn't able to use her body the way that she was probably used to in running. And so when you have a sport that's your life and you are somewhat good at it and then you can no longer do it, it has like a pretty bad toll on your mental health. And especially when it's kind of self-inflicted. Like I retired from my sport, but she just self-inflicted, like had to force quit from her thing because she just wasn't able to do it any longer. She was open about her struggles with living with a disability on social media. She was quoted as saying, "It's an exhausting, lonely experience, and I would not wish it upon anyone." She took to social media to advocate for people who had eating disorders and other struggles with disability, and all that stuff. So now this is where it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
So she was arrested. Look, she got arrested in the fall of 2022. I can't even say this with a straight face. This is so ridiculous.
Sorry.
She was
Wait, what? No.
Yeah, just flash, shock flash.
Right.
She was arrested. She was arrested with $250,000 in her bank account, and it was unclear how she acquired this money. And the Australian government took notice of this sudden uptick in her bank account, and they had some questions.
Can Australia do that? Like the police can just monitor your bank account?
Allegedly. So I tried to go. So here in the U.S. we have like, what is it, Court TV. So you can like open into records. I tried to open her record, and Australia has different sharing laws than we do. So I didn't have much information of like how they were able to figure this out, because a lot of it is sealed.
Well, so this is interesting because
here's our lawyer.
My day job.
Here's our lawyer.
Not only am I an attorney, but I work at a bank.
Is compliance?
Though, I don't work for that part of the bank. We do have plenty of trainings on anti-money laundering. And one of the ways to try to prevent money laundering is there is reporting thresholds for bank deposits in the United States. And there may be for Australia as well. And there's lots and lots of training about if you deposit more than $10,000, for example, that does get reported. And if you start doing it frequently, your banker may notice. And in an effort to curb terrorist financing and money laundering, they may in fact file something that could lead to something like this.
Interesting.
Where you get investigated. And, of course, our claim, all three of us, our claim will be, that's just my YouTube money, right? But apparently she didn't have that claim. So
no,
I don't know. But
from what
that could be a reason this was noticed.
Yeah, and from what I gathered, this happened really quickly. Like, it was like she had her legs amputated. She was kind of on the down and outs and not really working because of her disability. And then all of a sudden, it was like $250,000 in her bank account. And, they like you said, they probably have thresholds, and she rang a few bells. And so, so at the time of her arrest, she had $250,000 in her bank account, and it was unclear at the time how this happened. So basically, they were keeping surveillance on her, and they realized that our friend here was a thief, and she had about $120,000 worth of stolen goods in her house. And so when they raided her house, you can put picture 5 up. They found 150 Lego sets approximately, including Star Wars, Harry Potter, Speed Champions, Disney, and all those other fine things. And they were like, there was no record of her buying any of this with her own money. They also found evidence during the raid that she was armed with the intent to steal. Now, it's not clear what armed means.
Right.
But that was...
Australia... very hard.
Well, I would say, right, because I thought the same thing, Ben. I'm also biting mine. But Australia, I believe, they don't... Like, their gun laws are like, the average citizen cannot own a gun. So armed...
They're very strict.
She have a knife?
I'm like, what did she have? A shank or something? Like, what did she have? I mean, I don't know.
And then can like finds a way to get black market guns less than 2 weeks later.
That's what I'm saying.
Lots and lots of Lego Star Wars blasters, right? Tons of those.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, yikes! How did like, did no one stop her? No one thought to just say, hey,
Well,
you know, I know you can steal here in the US and they won't stop you, but over there, I just thought that they would be a little more,
let's call out the elephant in the room. This woman is stealing hundreds of thousands of Australian dollars worth of Lego sets, and she has no legs.
She has no legs.
Right.
That is the elephant in the room. That's why the story was wild to me. I found this deep. I mean, I'm talking like deep in the Google. This was like page 8. Like,
Was it really?
I went.
So there are cases past page 1.
Oh, there are, and they get weirder by the minute. So
wow.
And you can put up picture 6, and that's kind of like the last one. But she just had Lego sets everywhere. She had a couple like Google Chrome stuff, so it wasn't just all Lego, but like most of it was Lego. I see a Groot there. She had a Groot. Yeah. She was wild. She was wild, and she was armed with the intent to steal.
Man.
And so she was arrested. And
I'm glad we have a Sydney expert watching the stream tonight that we could get like live referencing from. Like,
yeah,
I know. I love this. I love the commentary.
Yeah, all the things that
they deserve producer credit tonight.
She really does.
The 10,000 recording threshold, and that you may get extra monitoring if you have a disability. Confirm you can't own a gun or a replica.
Now, Fabian.
Right? It's wild. It's like $40 to us. Oh my god! So she was selling all this stuff on Facebook Marketplace. So there were these like cash deals. They were under the table type things. So the police estimated that approximately $100,000 of that was from Lego. So she was arrested, and she pleaded with the judge, and her defense attorney was like, "Shouldn't she a wheelchair?" Yeah, I know. How did she do this?
But that's out of space. Right.
So many questions. So she was arrested, and her defense attorney was like, "Hey, listen, her quality of life in the prison cell is not good, and could we consider having her be on some type of house arrest, let her go home, let her have supervised trips out if she needs it." And so she was granted bail. And so she was confined to house arrest, only being able to leave with her father or an equivalent of a probation officer. I couldn't remember what the name was in Australia. Maybe Snowlana knows, but it's like an NIB, or there was some sort of like specific officer that she could leave with. And so 3 weeks after being released on house arrest, she was caught filling up her car with gas alone. So Slay Wonder Legs over here just left the house. Okay. So she was immediately apprehended again, and she was arrested, and they threw her back into jail, and the police went back to her house and checked and did a second raid on her house, and they found another $4,000 worth of stolen merchandise.
Oh,
and her defense attorney was like, "Well, the police must have missed that the first time around."
Those Walmart glass cases aren't looking so bad anymore, are they?
Yeah, those Sydney police, they're not accountants,
No, so there was, so her defense attorney said, "Hey, they must have missed those. There's no way she did that on her own." But for 3 weeks, allegedly, she's filling up. If you have the balls to go fill up your car 3 weeks into house arrest, like you can't just stop this. So, and then on that same visit, the same last visit, like I assume. Well, I don't know. I don't know. You could work in law enforcement. Who knows? But additionally, in that same visit, they located dye removing tags in her home. So she had just started the kick back up again. And so there she sat for. So they continued to freeze her bank accounts. She was not able to have access to them. She had to pay the appropriate taxes, and she sat in jail for about a year. And I think this year she was let back out, and she walks the streets again.
Speaking of which,
That's the end.
this is how I'm not gonna endorse this comment. I'm just gonna put it up on the screen. Y'all can read it.
Learned her Lego. Yep. That was the other reason why I thought it was clever, because I was like,
it's
Lego.
Just the pun involved in the actual all the circumstances. Now that being said, imagine this. I'll put on. I'm gonna pull my bleeding heart out and just be like, all right, this woman had the pressures of being an athlete, pressures of being a female athlete, and then
with no life, because you don't have a life when you're an athlete. Your life is your sport, and you go home and you sleep, and then you wake up and you do it. So she had no life.
And she might not have
no
had
identity
skills either. Like you apply to any sort of like, you know, I mean, one would say anybody could be a telemarketer, but you know, is that a job anymore? But like, and then just like all the trauma of what she put her body through with the anorexia, to the point where she lost what was making her money, her legs. And then now, when life gives you lemons, this is not necessarily the lemonade you're supposed to make. It's like, let's go steal Lego sets. And therefore, I'll move past that and just be like, why? How on earth was it that she knew that she must have read that Forbes article, Ben?
That's what I was saying. She saw the gold article and she was like, it's worth more than gold, people. And I can get my hands on it.
And I can only assume, based on how this is written, you know, being a little cynical here, you almost think like, you know, was it just the case that if she was in a wheelchair and she was doing this, people were afraid to stop her, even just rolling out with, you know, a bag full of something.
I don't want to endorse this one because it's something I think people could still do. But if you know what I'm talking about already, if you do that Target UPC thing, if that's what she was doing, like maybe she was just getting away with it, just had a printer at home and understood like the value of being able to get away with that.
Yeah, scanning those poly bags. You can't even get, you know, Walmart behind the glass in Walmart, but polybag UPC on an expensive Lego set. Yeah, I mean that's the other way that people have tried to do this. So perhaps it was, you know, more complicated. We didn't get a lot of details on how she was getting the sets, but it's pretty crazy.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, it was. I mean, I read her story and I thought it was just a normal person stealing Lego, and I was like, wow, it's just wild to me.
It is wild. Yeah, like then they arrested her. I was like, wait a minute. I was really starting to like this person and feel for her. So before we get to my case, we'll take a break and we'll talk about our sponsor. I don't know if you brought them with you to.
I don't. I'm so happy that you have a bag.
I've got that and this. If you want to talk about it,
I certainly will. Are you going to go to the bathroom?
I am. Nicole, do you also need a break, or would you like to stay in for this madness?
I'll stay in. I want to see what's going on.
All right, this is where the camera gets weird. So I'll leave my camera on. It'll just be an empty chair. I'll make sure I mute my microphone in case
there are any sounds.
Oh, lovely. So Nicole, this is normally where he ducks out and I sing a song or do a dance. But we also have the opportunity to talk about our unofficial sponsors, because we are not fancy enough to have real sponsors for the live stream. Brickworld has plenty of help and plenty of good YouTuber support, but we like to talk about the sponsors of our lives, the things that we love, even if they don't really sponsor us. And the first one, of course, is Dots Pretzels. Have you ever had a Dots pretzel?
No.
Oh my goodness, you're missing out. They're slightly spicy.
Are they like bar pretzels? Like bar pretzels?
They're kind of curled pretzels. They're like pretzel sticks. They're sort of twisted. And they have multiple flavors, but the one that we enjoy is just the originally seasoned Dots Pretzels. Looks like I pulled my camera out there, but the rest of this is still going. Well, you can hear me at least, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, I'm a lovely pause on the screen. So Dots Pretzel is the original seasoning, slightly spicy kick, manufactured in beautiful Velva, North Dakota. But you can find them pretty much anywhere, and I've started to see them now on YouTube. So maybe you'll get a request for a sponsorship one of these days. But absolutely delicious. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And then
Now I
our
need to
second
find
one,
these.
Mark, you can take over for Zevia here. I seem to have lost my picture. I'm frozen on there, but everyone can
Oh,
still
no.
hear me. Go ahead and talk about Dr.
bizarre.
Zevia. While I
Um,
get my web up.
He got so
Yeah.
excited about the pretzels.
So Zevia
Pulled his
is
camera out.
Zevia is a 0-calorie soda. It's all natural, so it has no sugar. It's sweetened with stevia. And as the WHO is about to announce, they're going to name aspartame as a cause of cancer. So you want to stop drinking that diet soda. And if you like soda, I call it pop here in Chicago. I don't know why I'm using the word soda. But if you like pop and you don't want all that sugar, and you're going to listen to the WHO when they say that aspartame causes cancer, then you should check this out. If you're not familiar with the sweetener stevia, it does taste a little bit like black licorice. So for me, it took a little bit of getting used to, but the Dr. Zevia brand is definitely my favorite, and it may save your life if you switch from diet pop to the Zevia brand. And I think a lot of the
Years of Lego. Yeah, many more years of Lego.
that's a serious shout out for Zevia tonight. It'll save your life. I can't find it, but I just wanted to call out real quick that Stupa. Here it is. She said we did have an AA meeting at Chicago. This is our second year doing the AA meeting, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, making sure I'm supporting all the people who might have similar problems, might be triggered by my behavior. And also this dry period is going to be a chance for me to check in with myself to make sure I'm not developing any sort of dependency. I'm in my 40s. I don't think that's it, but I have to check, and that's the concern. Having to
For
check
sure.
is where the concern is. So, but thank you. Yeah, I think that is really important to me to have a recovery meeting in Chicago that happens right before World of Lights, because World of Lights can get pretty crazy, and people have fed back to me that it is the behavior of Brick World Chicago can be a trigger for them. They're not sure they're going to be able to stay sober through the whole event. So thank you for noticing that. So you guys ready for this?
I'm sorry.
Woo! This is dark. So I'm glad we went in
Strap in,
this order.
people.
Yeah.
Strap in.
Seriously, TVMA, put the kids to bed. If they stay and watch the whole thing, there are probably gonna be a couple things you need to. They're gonna have some questions about life.
Listener discretion advised.
Oh, very, very much so. So, here we go. Let's all go to Salt Lake City, Utah. If you're not aware of it, it is a place that is rather idyllic in nature. That's kind of the reputation that it has. There's also a big presence of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, there in Salt Lake City, and they're very well known for being community-minded and giving to each other, watching out for their neighbors. And we're going to talk about a specific member of the Salt Lake City community whose name is Lucille Minor Johnson. She was born July 11th, 1912, and died February 2nd, 1991. I believe that makes her 78. I think some of the reports said she was 79, but I don't think the math works that way. And I didn't do all of my the correct math to make sure which one was right.
78, my friend. You are
Yeah, I
right
thought-
on the money.
I thought so. Okay.
Whether there's a leap year or not, she's still 78.
They kept saying some of the things that I listened to, and I was like, am I doing it wrong? And I just didn't go back to double check my math. But so this is from her obituary on findagrave.com. As I already said, she was born Thursday, July 11th, 1912 in Eureka, Utah. She married Howard D. Johnson on August 23rd, 1933 in the Salt Lake Latter-day Saints Temple. He preceded her in death on August 5th, 1989. So this woman, they were married for 55 years. And where's my camera? I'm trying to get my camera back. Oh, I did my slides differently. They're overlays. They're not sharing screen. And I got confused. So they've been married for 55 years. And so this is 3 years after his death. She's still out there. She's working with the community. She's helping her neighbors. And like she basically lives what her family would say later was like a life of service to others. She's a very small woman, keep in mind, 4'11", and like they didn't have her weight then recorded, also, but she's a tiny woman. They said like as small as she was physically, her heart was just as enormous as small as she was physically. So. Some other things about her: she was a graduate of the LDS, that's Latter-day Saints. There were flies all over the house because it kept trying to get the dog outside to use the bathroom. One just crawled into my shirt. She was a graduate of the Latter-day Saints Business College and a former member of the Exchangettes, which apparently I looked up. It's the Salt Lake Exchange Club. So I still don't have a lot of information on what that means. Doesn't matter, though. Just trying to paint you a picture of this woman. At the time of her death, she was president of the Southern Utah Broadcasting, the radio stations KSUB-AM, KSSD-FM, and the president of Investment Center, which is a family investment real estate group. As an active member of the Latter-day Saints Church, she held many positions of service over the years, including MIA president, which I didn't look up. I don't think it means missing in action, and all areas of the Relief Society. Currently, she was the Relief Society secretary in her ward. So she did a lot for other people, very giving to her neighbors. You're pretty sure she's going to live through this story, right?
Small but mighty. Small but mighty.
So she enjoyed genealogy and was enthusiastically involved in the name extraction program, which if you know anything about the Mormon Church, they have an enormous genealogy database. Like if you want to know anything about your family, that's a really great place to check, is finding through them. I don't remember the reason exactly why they do this work, but they've got like the genealogy of everybody who has moved to the United States, and then their families from there on out, since it was settled and taken from the natives. Where was I at? So she also enjoyed hand work, which again, this is quoting, so I imagine that means like crocheting, making things, maybe ceramics, and has left special memories for each member of her family. So she was ready to go whenever, so she made something for each member of her family to leave to them in their will. That was made by her by hand. She was a kind and loving individual who was devoted to her family, friends, and neighbors, and was held in high esteem by all. At the funeral, her son Jerry said hers was a life of service, as I already quoted. The last.
Oh God, where's this going?
Here we go. Put the kids to bed.
So she was arrested.
Yeah, right.
In 2022 with $250,000 in stolen late night.
I'm not sure she would have lived in 2022 either way. This is in. The last time Lucille Johnson was seen alive was on the afternoon of February 2nd, 1991, and she at the time had been sweeping her porch. The family only recalled that she had had an appointment that day to have her car detailed, with no plans to go anywhere else. Apparently, she was leaving the car there. The family was unable to contact her the next day. So out of concern, Lucille's daughter, Shirley, went to the house to check on her, and Shirley found Lucille dead on the floor of her bedroom with a pillow over her face. So when Shirley called 911 to report the incident, they asked her if she knew CPR. And Shirley could tell that it was beyond that already. She's like, no, my mother's already gone. They asked her to describe the state that she found her mother in. And when she told the 911 dispatcher that she found her with a pillow over her face, the 911 dispatcher asked, are you alone in the house? And that was the first time Shirley realized that her mother was a victim of foul play. Like she thought that her mother was like hemorrhaging and trying to get to the bathroom. And that's how she ended up in the state that she was in. But the investigation that followed would show that Lucille died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. She had a fractured skull and 24 broken ribs. When I read that, I Googled, how many ribs are there in the human body? 24.
24.
I'm like, this article could have said all of her ribs were broken. Right. Which, by the way, side note, as long as we got religion in this already, I was raised in an evangelical church, and I was told that Eve was made out of Adam's rib, and that's why all men have one less rib than women do. And I was 46 years old when I learned that isn't true, because I Googled it and I was like, wait, and men have the same too? It's like,
Mark.
And I didn't believe like that entire like Genesis story anymore at all myself.
This is why this show's important. You've been living in a different world.
Men and women do have the same number of ribs. I also found out while researching this. Anyway, so the fractured skull, all of her ribs broken, and numerous blows to the head. So the other things that they found were that like a designer purse was missing. There was a ring that was missing, but other items of value were left behind. And the front door itself was unlocked. And Shirley and the rest of the family said there's no way she would leave the door unlocked if she was home alone. And that since there was no sign of forced entry, the police believed they were looking for someone that Shirley knew. Let me see if
Lucille. That Lucille knew, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay.
What's that? Only Lucille at that point would be the one that we knew for sure. And unfortunately, She was no longer talking about it. Let's see. So among all the evidence, there was Lego bricks. They were on the floor of the living room. They were in the front foyer, in the hallway, and on the driveway. No, she was not. Actually, her family, when they asked her that, her family said that the only reason she would have those out is if there were children in the house. She had them for her grandchildren, and she was very neat and tidy, and there's no reason that those would be out. And nothing else was ransacked. It's not like someone flew through drawers or like turned over everything in the house to find anything of value. It was like the dead body and Lego bricks. So, nobody knew what any of that meant. It didn't mean anything to the police at the time. It didn't lead them anywhere. So they just collected them as evidence, just in case. So, as they thought it was somebody that Lucille knew, the family started suspecting her nephew. And so she had a close relationship with her nephew. They were both in the genealogy. And so they got together a lot on their own to go through the family tree, their own specific genealogy. And they put together a huge family tree dating back to the 1600s for the descendants of the Johnson family and the Minor family, as we know as well. And they spent a lot of time together, and he was having some trouble keeping a job and had some other sort of like maybe let me see if I have a note about it. I think in one of the articles I read suggested that he had some like maybe some run-ins with the law as well. Let me see. Either way, he spent a lot of time at the home helping her out with things and doing the genealogy stuff, and then she ended up helping him out a lot, especially financially. And 2 weeks before the murder, they found out she had talked to the rest of her family that she was starting to feel taken advantage of, and it gave her a lot of anxiety that whenever he came over, he was going to ask for money. So she sat him down and said, this is not going to be as regular as it has been. You've got to start doing more for yourself. And unless there's a real emergency, I'm not going to be giving you any more money. And then when the daughter who found her mother this way, Shirley, when she talked to the nephew, she said his response when she said that he had died, when she said that Lucille, had been murdered, was I'm sorry. He found out about it and then called her. Apologies. The quote is, "I'm not calling to say I'm sorry. I have my own feelings to deal with, but there are things in that house that belong to me, and I want to be there when you clean it out." And that was the only thing he said. So this tore the family apart, him being a suspect. And the police were into it as well, and questioned him a lot. And his alibi for the night of her murder was that he was at home. So that's not an alibi that can really be checked. And it's...
Liar!
Right?
Liar.
So this is a darker part.
What year is this?
1991.
Oh, so no Apple Watch, okay.
No Apple Watch. No, yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. I was like, well, if you Find My, like,
where was his cell phone?
Yeah, it'll tell you where they went.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of that.
Yeah, 91, no cell phone either, probably. Yeah.
You might have had a brick phone in your car, but it certainly wasn't trackable, and it wasn't on your body at all times. That's for damn sure. The brick phones would just be in the car. So there was a bloody footprint on Lucille's sweater. So just let that sit in your head. That might be something the kids have questions about later. And it didn't match the size of the nephew's foot or any of the shoes that he owned. And so they ended up not pressing any charges or arresting him for it. They questioned him a lot. And this continued to get inside the family's head and created a lot of tension between family members over whether this nephew was responsible in some way or another. Like, did he know somebody who went in with him and had the right size shoe? However, he was an adult by then, so he wouldn't have taken out the Lego to play, right? Was he an A-fold?
Now, was the shoe bigger or smaller?
That I don't know. I wish I had. I wish I had.
Sometimes criminals wear different size shoes to throw people off.
That definitely a possibility. So the other, once they ran,
I'm in this now.
I mean, well,
wear ill-fitting gloves to murder their ex-wife.
What do you know?
Glove does not fit. You must acquit, right?
Oh, gross. And Lucille was really involved in the community, so she worked at the homeless shelter, and she worked in a lot of different places she volunteered a lot, just helping neighbors out. And we'll get to that as well. Working for the church to bring food boxes to poor families, stuff like that. So the police started looking at kind of unsolved crimes in the area, and they began to suspect that there was a serial killer in the area that targeted older women because they had several unsolved cases that were similar to Lucille's. And they had all sorts of evidence at that point that like John Wayne Gacy had visited the area, and they had like criminal psychologists who told them that these idyllic type places are types that serial killers often go to find victims because of like the innocence and like perceived perfection of this type of area, and the assumption that these people are going to be more docile than other victims.
Never thought it would happen in a place like this kind of place.
Never thought it would happen in a place like this kind of place. Exactly.
Doors unlocked. People who will open their door to a stranger who knocks. Things like that. Yeah.
So.
But Gacy wasn't into that though.
Right. He's one of the freaking scariest. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Let's not talk more about him. I'll have nightmares about that. I won't come back on this.
Gacy was not into stuff like that. Just saying, so we know it's not Gacy.
Right. So in mid a little over a year and a half later, mid 1992, they ran out of leads and shelved the case.
It went cold?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Victor did it.
Maybe it was.
That's exactly what I just thought. I'm like, it was Victor.
So then, in 2013, thanks to federal funding, Utah's cold cases benefited from, and this is a quote from a website from a TV show called Scene of the Crime. Utah's cold cases benefited from a giant leap in modern forensics. So let me see. My notes get a little jumbled here, so I just want to make sure I'm telling this in the right way. So the first thing that they have, so DNA, so they get this federal funding and they have more resources to start looking at cold cases, right? But in, 2013, it was up to the investigators in 1991 to have collected the evidence correctly for them to use the new technology. And luckily, the Salt Lake City Police Department did very well. They had they clipped her fingernails, which had DNA evidence underneath it. So everyone knew what this was at the time, but they weren't necessarily able to afford the technology to be able to analyze any of this evidence. So it wasn't until they had federal funding.
Early in DNA.
Oh yeah.
Testing.
And to think that very
come out in the early 90s, right?
Yeah, I think they when did they process the they finally sequenced the discovered the entire DNA sequence, I think, in the very early 90s.
Yeah. And this was 91?
And it was 91 when it happened, and they collected the evidence correct. But they weren't able to do anything with it until 2013. So I just imagine that there's 12 years where everybody knows that DNA evidence is going to be important, but not every police department has the funding to afford that technology.
Well, and they kept the chain of custody intact too for 12 years. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Wild.
So what are some of the things they have in this evidence box, right? They've got the fingernails, they've got DNA, another person's DNA on that. And so they run it through, let's see, I've got this here. They run it through.
What else collect, Mark?
And by the way, this is a police sergeant named Michael Ike. Let me see. Michael Ike. Damn it, I had this earlier. Michael Ikemi Ishiro, who they call Sergeant Ike, so I'm just going to call him that from now on so I don't butcher his name again. He was the one who opened this case back up, and it's very important to him and his entire police department. Apparently, Salt Lake is, the entire state of Utah actually is very serious about solving their cold cases and pull them out frequently. And when they got this funding, there were certain ones that meant things to local people, and they went back for this one for Lucille's murder. So CODIS stands for the Combined DNA Index System. I know that doesn't actually work as an acronym, but that's what it stands for. And to quote FBI.gov, it's FBI's program of support for criminal justice DNA databases, as well as the software used to run these databases. So they run that DNA through CODIS, and they get a match for a person who's already incarcerated for murder in another state. So he's serving, his name is John Sansing, and he's serving...
Oh, I thought you were saying John Wayne Casey.
Could you imagine? No, but of course he's a John.
I was like, so it had to be a John. Okay.
Anyone dating a John, break up right now.
Run. Run.
Johns are bad. So he's serving a life sentence for a murder in Arizona, where he ordered a food box from a local church to his house. And when the woman delivered it, he murdered her in his own house with his wife and 4 children present. That's as much detail as I'm willing to get into. This is a Lego family-friendly live stream, by the way. So, surprisingly enough, that DNA evidence is not enough to actually convict him. Like, they need more. They have to place him inside the house. So what does Sergeant Ike do? He finds the 4 children, because the story that the family said that she wouldn't have taken the Lego out unless there were children in the house, and she wouldn't have unlocked the door for a stranger. I left that part out earlier. They said she never would have unlocked the door for a stranger. That's why they thought it was someone she knew, unless they had some sort of compelling story, like they had children with them and they were in trouble. So they're trying to find out, did this guy do this again? Were his children with him during this murder? And so Sergeant Ike takes the Lego bricks and has them dusted for fingerprints, finds fingerprints. And even though they were all adults now, they match one of John Sansing's sons' fingerprints. Who, unless I'm mistaken, because they all 4 of his children seem to go back and forth, I believe his son was in jail himself at the time. Yeah. So he...
Can you blame him with the family trauma?
Yeah.
Can you blame him?
Right? Well, we'll get to that. Because the episode of the show that I watched that went over this crime, they actually interviewed the guy at the end, and he basically had zero idea what that type of trauma would do to his children. So with that match, they placed him inside the house. And after 23 years, because this wasn't solved, this takes a couple years to go through this entire process. They had to extradite him to Utah to get him to try him there. So it took an additional 2 years after they first got this funding to solve the case. So it was 23 years that this case went unsolved. And the kicker was the Lego bricks that Shirley had taken. Shirley's daughter, Lucille, had taken out for this guy's kids. So he went to prison for life in Utah for this as well. So he's serving 2 life sentences. And I mean, I've said before that the wife was also at both incidents, and she's also in jail for life for being an accessory to murder. And kind of I did a deep dive on her as well. And she was I believe it's India. She was from India, and she had been beat by her husband and ran away from him and ended up in a jail in Calcutta. I don't know how she ended up in the United States, but her entire view was that the husband is the master, and she had been through a bunch of trauma herself. So these kind of things that she went through, she gave a lot of evidence in this as well that, yeah, I was there for these things. I mean, she didn't report them, but when they came to ask her about them, especially for the Arizona case, I'm sorry, in the Utah case where she was already serving a life sentence, she told them everything she knew. The children also said that they had been there and it traumatized them, but they were in a culture of not talking about it, not ratting their father out, right? So, 23 years, this family can finally find some peace, right? And let's see. So that's the part of like the interview where they talk with, because none of the information I found out there had the information that this guy John Sansing gave to the host of the show in the interview. And what happened was, so we said that she had taken her car into the car dealership to be detailed. And when they first started questioning John Sansing, he had been advised by his attorneys not to answer any questions about the incident that they were looking to charge him for. So they asked him just general questions about life, like, before you were in jail in Arizona, where did you live? And he only had a Utah driver's license. He's like, what was your last address? It was in Salt Lake City. What was your last job? And he said he volunteered at a soup kitchen, and that was the only work he did, which, again, might have run into Lucille doing all that volunteer work as she did. Well, his wife said, no, he worked at a car dealership. So it turned out he worked at the car dealership, where she took her car to be detailed. He drove her home and noticed her jewelry and was like, he was a drug addict and he was like a user and a thief and was kind of like, and he needed money. I believe in the Trudy Calabrese story, the woman in Arizona who brought the food box to the house from the church, after he murdered her, he took a necklace from her that he later traded for cocaine, for crack cocaine. And that was the life for the necklace for the crack cocaine. And just an absolute monster, obviously. So he drove her back to the house and then came back later with his wife and kids because he knew she would let her in the house if he had the kids. And when she got up to go to the bathroom, he started looking for valuables and she caught him looking for valuables. And then we know the rest. And the host of the show was like, your children were there. And he's like, yeah, but they stayed in the living room in the hallway where they found the Lego bricks, right? And the host was like, you don't think they know what's going on with that much violence, that much noise? And this guy goes off and he's like, whatever my four kids have done to get themselves in jail is, it's not because of that murder when they were kids. He's like, they made their own choices. And I was like, oh, dude, you're clearly not a criminal psychologist here. Like, there's definitely a life.
Welcome to the 90s, man. The 90s.
Right. 90s. And like, I don't want to glorify this guy at all because I don't want a sociopath listening to this and like give some of the descriptions that the police gave of this guy when they were questioning him and finding out about his motives and things like that. But I will say it was surprising in the end of the interview how much remorse he showed for what he did. Because a lot of times a sociopath won't be able to show remorse.
Yeah,
and so
he has no empathy.
Yeah. But also, who cares? Mega block that guy. I don't care. I don't care if he feels remorse or not. Like, just to think of like what Lucille went through, like after losing her husband, I mean, she persevered. I mean, and like the way her family talks about her, there was plenty of life left in her. She might have been 78, 79, definitely 78.
78. Yep.
But she was still going, and she was there to support her family and be there for other people. And her life was cut short by a greedy, selfish, evil person. And Lego bricks helped solve the case.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we play with Lego.
Lego crimes, everybody.
Lego crimes.
Lego crime.
Yikes.
Definitely outside the blocks for our normal show today. Lego crimes. Take that. Take the dots and the ZV off. I want to see the arrest right there. Look at that. Right, you guys are busted. Lego crimes. Naughty alligator, you are going in the paddy wagon for your evil deeds. There you are.
There you are. Oh, but you know what?
Off to jail. Lego crimes.
Let's make it match Ben's case. He's free. Let's see, do I have a hammer around? No solution in
yeah.
Case.
Victor the alligator, I tell you what. Hey, Republic Attack still making YouTube videos.
Yeah, which is
maybe
good.
We can have him on. Maybe we can have him on one day if we get big enough. Don't you think he would come on?
Yeah, but
Nicole can convince him, right, to come over to talk about it. A cold case.
I'm gonna have to pre-apologize for calling him hyper masculine.
That's okay.
I don't know if my ego can take that. No, I'm kidding.
That's okay.
That's a great idea. I just don't know that we have the influence to get him. Maybe we keep asking him.
You never know.
Just keep sending them a message.
never
You're
know.
like, hey, listen, man.
Oh, I had my notes up, so I don't know if there's been any comments. So someone just said, "I see you've played Knifey Spoony before," and it's of course Snow Lena. All right, let's see if
God. Was the footprint was from the murderer, not the kids, right?
the footprint was an adult male, and it was
Okay, it was an adult.
that was the way her ribs got broken. Yeah.
Oh,
So nephew
by the way,
was a
oh.
jerk, but apparently not a murderer. So
Did I
anything
not-
about nephew that we didn't hear?
Perhaps the murder. Well, obviously, he had nothing to do with it. Like,
the nephew just wanted the cleanup.
yeah, he was just like,
He's
no,
like, "Here it is."
he's like, yeah, I have a sweatshirt there. It's an important sweatshirt to me, so make sure I'm there when you. Yeah, and it was misinterpreted. So the thing about the footprint,
Well,
I don't know
no,
if
he
you heard me
probably
say
wanted the
this.
Lego because the value went up. It's like,
right? It was a bloody footprint. So I mean, think to yourself how it became bloody before it broke the ribs, but it was definitely part of the attack.
Blunt force trauma section of that attack.
Yeah, we had some questions during this that was mostly me confusing the names, where they were like, "Wait, what?" But I think the most important was from Stud Sidious. The seasoning on those Dots pretzels is magic. They are so good. Yeah, and then the dog gets a little treat too, because then she can clean off your hands because they are so sandy with the spices. Like always like
Absolutely
I'm gonna
delicious.
have to try these pretzels.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you don't get a
Definitely.
sponsorship from this pretzel company, they don't know what they're missing.
We'll have to send them a
they
reel.
got- You know what I'm gonna do?
A
I'm gonna tag them and be like,
supercut
"Hey,
of
have
us
you heard
talking
of this
about Dots
podcast?"
pretzels.
We're gonna
We
send them
heard
a
this one.
supercut. We're gonna send them a
Yeah.
supercut, and they're gonna send us a cease and desist.
Wait, what's the name of the pretzel company?
Dots.
Dots?
Pretzels. Yes.
Dots Pretzels. Okay,
They seem
okay.
lovely.
Dots Pretzels. I'm just
Um,
gonna see if they have an affiliate program, and I'm gonna put your name in there.
From Velva, North Dakota.
Yes.
Let's see. Mine says small town recipe, big time flavor. What's the tagline you always give it, Ben? It's like the
I believe they had a YouTube ad that I saw where they were sensationally seasoned.
Sensationally
That was the tagline, the
seasoned.
new one.
I think
How
it's
did you
Yes.
find these pretzels?
at the grocery store.
Mark and I were just talking, right? We're buds, and we were recording some episodes that we planned to do. We weren't moving to live stream until a little later.
we
And
call them the
just
lost
both
episode.
happened to be the last episodes. We just both happened to be talking about eating pretzels. I think I was munching on them, and he was like, "Are those Dots?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Dots are the best," and we just instantly connected over munching on Dots while working on our Lego.
And by the way, Stud Sidious, it is John Sansing. I do apologize.
Oh, well.
That's like the greatest.
All right, so-
I'm gonna message them.
I'd say, is this the end of our
Like-
first Lego Crimes episode? What were you going to say, Nicole? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm gonna message them and be like, you need.
And
Like-
I said that Dr. Zevia will save your life. So I mean that's a hell of
Yeah,
an
I'd
say
endorsement.
that.
I think Ben and I talk about all the time what we're going to do with our Sweet Dots money when we finally get it. So we're just waiting.
Wait, so you're not sponsored by any one of these guys?
No.
Either of these.
No.
No,
You
we
should
just
be.
So they've been like when we were doing the lost tapes. We were like it would just like they would be on screen all the time. So I'm like, we're endorsing these. Let's talk about our unofficial sponsors. And like we talked about them a lot. And so since it wasn't a live stream, we didn't actually put the shot on them or anything. We just had conversations about them because I was going to go and edit everything out eventually. It looks like my camera died. And I just didn't have the time. I'm not made of that type of time. Anybody who knows me would probably laugh at the idea that we were going to take footage and then I was going to edit it into episodes later. Perhaps at some point we'll get some of the lost tapes. But yeah, we just started talking about them. So as soon as we started doing live streams, we're like, hey, let's talk more about our unofficial sponsors because it was already an inside joke between us.
I'm just saying.
Just kept it up.
Sean, the right way. He makes music. You could have a whole jingle segment with like a nice video montage.
That'd
It's
be
just
awesome.
like a quick clip, just two ad breaks.
I have
Just
a
have it in the
feeling,
middle.
Mark, a very strong
I'm thinking
feeling that
big.
you could
I'm thinking
he could
big.
probably do a lot with your oohs too.
Oh yeah,
Some
definitely.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dots Pretzels. Yeah, a friend of
Yeah.
mine came to Brick World and saw the live stream on your computer, Ben, and so they followed us. And this is someone I went to college with. I talked to her like once a week, and her kids watch the Supercut. Like she says, she's like it's like 20 times in a row. She's like, I can't get the sound of you going ooh out of my head.
Yeah, you've been much better with it lately, but
I-
Nicole missed that one. That was my favorite ever. Was
I
the
think-
first live stream I was on with Mark. We were building habitats to talk about. He was talking about Brick World, and every time we would build something that he liked, he'd give us an ooh.
Ooh, yeah. And it just it
I
kept
asked
happening.
him to produce a supercut, and he did. It is the best thing you will see. Is it on
Where can
YouTube
I
or just
find
on
it?
TikTok, or where is it?
Oh, here I'll post it up in the comments.
Oh, you've got to. It's the best. You've got to listen to this.
When I was making it, I got so tired of hearing my voice. I was just like, why is my voice so weird? Where's
But I could see an ooh dots. I could see it. I can feel it in my bones right now.
Oh, definitely. I think it needs to.
Yeah.
I need to get with Sean the right way, and have him make me a jingle. Oh, here we go. All right, I found it. I'm putting it in the comments. Where'd my comments go? Again, I need a dashboard where I can just see everything. All right, so Ben, are you around next week?
I should be.
I haven't-
and hopefully I will have a minute or two to build something. We'll see.
I have a new build on my desk, and I actually ordered pieces for it. So
Wow, amazing.
that's it. And Nicole, you're certainly welcome anytime. But definitely, we'll have to do.
Oh, don't say that. You know I'll come back all the time.
We'll definitely do Lego Crimes again soon. We'll see how the responses are to it, and see if we want to do it once a month, once every other month, or
Yeah.
because apparently
I
there's
do have an honorable mention. Quick.
yeah.
This was going to be my case, but I couldn't find enough on it. And then I realized it was just a funny story on the news that it didn't really go much deeper than like the stories. The honorable mention story is this little boy. He goes to daycare across from his house, and he sees a man breaking into his house while he's at daycare. And so he's kind of like,
I read this one. I totally read this one.
He sees the man breaking into his house, and the cops come, and the guy has his shoes off, and he's poured himself a water, and he's playing with the kid's Lego.
Yeah. I almost did this one because he broke and entered. It was a crime. It would have been a lot more lighthearted than what I did.
Exactly. Turns out he left his mental facility because he didn't want to take his meds anymore, and found this random house and saw the Lego, gets comfortable, kicks his shoes off, pours himself a glass of water, and is playing with this kid's Lego. And the kid was just like, I forget, they quoted the kid or something. The kid's like, that was just really weird. He poured water.
I can't remember the kid's quote, but the quote from the police was something like, we let him play for an hour while we, just did as much like background check as we could with his facility to make sure that he wasn't going to be violent with us when we went and got him. Also, we just wanted to give him time to play.
Yeah.
That was the best part of it. And it was like, I was like, this story is so good. And I tried to find more info on it, but apparently it's just one of those like, kind of like a Florida man does blah, blah. Like, it was one of those short, it was like a one-liner, man breaks into house to play with kids Lego. And that was like it.
I would say like just doing like from the research side, it wasn't until I found a TV episode about it that I was able to find like more actual sources for information about the case, because it was the same sort of thing. Like everybody, when they saw that crime had been solved with Lego bricks, everybody in the United States did a story about it, and they all borrowed the same information. A lot of them getting it wrong. Like one of the articles I read was like, and then they got DNA evidence from Lego bricks and matched it with John Sansing. I'm like, that's not at all what happened. What happened is much darker. Maybe
It's way darker.
maybe they were
Fingerprint
just children.
child. That's even crazier.
Yeah.
Well, you told it. You guys both told your stories very well. I just didn't really have a good transition from she was amputated, and then she got arrested. I
I'm
didn't really
sorry.
have like
That was the best part of the entire show.
I would say that was the best transition of the night. So you stand corrected. That was amazing.
just like I was like, I don't
Drew us
really
in
know what
to
else
feel
happened.
bad for her, and then Hammer. We loved it. It was my favorite.
Well, and it's kind of
I Victored the story. I just like you thought this was going one way. I feel really bad for that woman. I really
Yeah.
do. Like my heart goes out to her, but then I'm like, she knows what she's doing. She needs help.
Yeah.
She
Well,
needs some help.
it kind of like the story does kind of go that way, where it's like there's this famous athlete in Australia, and she has these health struggles, and then her legs are amputated, and then 2 weeks later she's arrested for like massive theft. Like the story is kind of that much of a punch in the face.
Oh, it's so bad. I'm like, she needs some like mental help, like guidance, like where is that, Oh my God. But yeah, you guys did such a good job with your stories. I'm like blown away. We really went like official with this one.
Oh, and I probably should have started off with giving credit to this, but this entire format is based off of a podcast called Wine and Crime, which I highly recommend. It took me a while to get used to, because it is like the episodes are like 3 hours long, and they do know each other very well. They went to college and I think high school together as well, and they talk a lot about their personal lives. And I was just like, where's the crime? Like, get to the crime. But they're really knowledgeable about this sort of stuff. There are a couple things where like that they're very kind of millennial in, and I'm not saying millennials are like this. I'm saying like our education system is being dismantled under our very feet, where they didn't realize that there were states and commonwealths in the United States, or like little things like that, where just like that was one of like the questions we had to get right, or like we wouldn't pass our constitution test, or like the little things like that, where I'm just like, our poor education system. But they're hilarious, and I've gone and seen them live twice. But it's the same sort of format where they bring 3 cases. Well, one of them typically does background in psychology, and then there's 2 cases after that. But brilliant. I highly recommend it, and that's what I'm ripping off this format from, just to be completely honest about it. We'll get a cease and desist from them as well.
Totally.
Let's see how many.
Here we go.
Let's see how many cease and desist letters we can collect, and that'll be the statement of our live stream.
We'll build frames for them out of Lego and display them at Brickworld.
Absolutely. All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I love this. I was thinking about that. I'm like, I have to make an overlay for this. Victor is now a verb.
It is a verb.
To smash with a rubber mallet. Yeah. Add it to the Urban Dictionary now.
Yeah. That set got
Somebody
victored.
will. Somebody totally will.
Following Brickworld, I victored the back end of that boat, Mark.
I bet you did. So,
Yeah.
We did, Nicole the Big, our group worked on the Party Barge of the Dead.
That was you?
Yeah. And Ben's job was the butt of the ship. My job was the sides. But the butt of the ship, he had to put on a discarded 4-panel door from his house in order to move it anywhere, and for it to sit flat in the car.
Door, yeah. We left it there. So if you happen to see back by the concessions area a 6-panel oak door just sitting around, that was my contribution to Brickworld.
Oh my God.
We had to victor the back of that boat to get it out. So,
and that's the only credit we can take for it, is like the butt and the sides, because it's the guy who leads our group, is everything we do is his brainchild, and so he came up with the entire concept, and he had the bouncing head dragon that was timed to the music, and the coils that moved around the ship. That was him. So he's got fantastic ideas. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He won Brickworld Master 2022. Tim Lighty.
Yeah.
And you got to throw up this comment, this last one from Z Spouse. She wants a correction. I didn't victor it. We victored it. It was very cathartic for her as well. So
Mrs. Z is like,
Z Spouse wants a little credit for victoring the back of that boat.
She just wanted to victor something.
I like saying Miss
Victor hardly knew her.
She's like, I know how to use a rubber mallet too. We victored it together.
We victored it together. Mark my words, that's going to be on Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, I think for Lego Crime, though, the big thing we need to do is, instead of pulling out our popcorn, we need to pull out our dots.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're definitely going to have to have that next time. Yep.
I'm going to have to, the next time, I'll try dots live on the air with you.
Yeah, for the first time? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and the soda. I'll do both.
Yeah.
And we'll just see. Like a live action.
Yeah. All natural.
Saving my life. saving lives,
That's right.
one can at a time.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to our post show and let the Brickville family go. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us as usual. We will see you next week. And Nicole, the way we like to end our podcast. I wish I had like a hip jam and Brent's voice, but I don't. All we have is to remember that there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. So says Bob Ross. Good night, everybody. See you next week.